documentation's back there.
So do you want to do it yet?
To go through the property.
All right, we'll go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. Move to approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That'll take us down to, I guess, we don't have anything under business items, so we'll go down to department presentations.
So that is the business item. This
Okay.
is what we discussed as budget. That's what this whole session is about. So this is a free flow of information. We will give you information, give you numbers, talk about stuff, discuss it, argue, look at what we're talking about adding to the whole of the grids, and then we'll look again at the step increase plus 3%. So we work with this from left to right in that we start with our unaudited balances on the left. What do we figure we're going to have at the beginning of the budget year on October 1st? And then on the right is what are we going to have at the end of the budget year on September 30, 2024. So we start with our unaudited balance, which is an estimate of what we think we're going to have left at the end of this year. Next to that is the revenue. We have two revenue lines, the police department, which has the Prop P, and then the general revenues, which is everything else. Added together, we're estimating, and these are estimates, $3.168 million is what we're looking at bringing in. Next to that is salaries and benefits. That's for each of the departments. We have gone through all of the line items with the department heads to determine what we think works best, what we think we need, we don't need. So we come up with the salaries and benefits and operational salaries and benefits in that how many employees do we have, do we need more? Operational is going to be all your expenses to maintain the operation of the department. So that's your pencils, your pens, and tasers, and whatever other equipment that you're going to need to buy. This replacement type of equipment, gas, vehicle maintenance. So then we come up with a total on what we see as operational costs. So that is right above the green. So we look at 2.387 million is what we figure for operational, which is good. That leaves us $780,000 because we are not spending over what our revenues are just to run the city. If you're over, then we have an issue, and we have to then go back and look and cut, reduce, and figure out a way to make that even. Because if you have too much in that area, then you can't do anything with your capital items. So then we move to the right, and the next column where it starts out with debt service, that is debt service, it's part of the legislative budget line. Those are items that we either do yearly, they're going to be capital type items. This will be some of the discussion when we come back and talk about the capital items individually. The cost is in the next column under capital items, what their cost is. That then gives you a department total. And we then look at what that total is compared to what our operational are and what we think we're going to be spending from there to the end of the budget year. And we figure we have 2.127 million left at the end of September 30, 2024. Then we come down to capital improvements. So these are big ticket items, like the City Hall boardroom, we're estimating at $550,000. Website stormwater review. So these are a couple of items. Again, we'll discuss that when we get into the individual ones. At $68,000, computers and software for the Welcome Center. Police department has tools and equipment at $33,400. And then the fire had radios, rescue truck, and a hose. We've included $221,650, but there is a reduction for what was requested, and we'll go through that when we go through the individual numbers. So that's general fund. General fund money can be used anywhere. You can spend it on all these categories, and you can spend it any of the categories that are below. Categories that are on the bottom, which are enterprise and dedicated funds, have to be spent for that department. You can't share it. So with the parks has a particular tax. Again, we're estimating $50,000 to be left over in their budget line. 312,725 is what will be income or revenue. Expenditure of operational is 133,016. Part of that is Alliance. And then we move our way over. We have a transfer in of $160,000 from ARPA, which will be out of the Capital Projects Fund. $261,000 is what the capital item expense is for that, and something else that we were going to include, and I can't remember what that is. Oh, what that'll be coming up. So the total department cost is $394,016. You notice there's a deficit in parks of $31,291. There's always a deficit in parks. Parks takes money out of the general fund, so we have to supplement. So there will be some money that comes out of the general fund if necessary. If not, then we don't have to worry about it, but we estimate that we're going to have to. Streets, we start at $935,709 because we're not going to get the paving done before the end of the budget year. Our revenues are $849,000, operational $643. We have $10,000, almost $11,000 in debt service there. $780,613 is what our capital expenses are. We'll go through those. So we're estimating 1.435. That's the department total. That'll leave us a balance of $349,000. Can we go through each one of these? You want to look at each one?
Only if there's some dedicated, it's like your
I
ARPA.
think, okay, let me jump down to water. The reason I say that is
Yeah.
water is one of our trickier ones right now. So water, we estimate we'll have 431,000, almost 432,000 left. We're looking at revenues of 1.5 million. We have salaries. That's our front office staff that does the water billing, takes care of work orders and that. So it's 67,628. We're looking at the operational expenses.
That's with the step increase. That's 67,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Operational expenses, which includes Alliance, 1,094,021. We have debt service of 256. Looking at capital items of 382. So we're expecting a department total of 1.8 million. That will leave us 191,000. So we're going to ask next year, one of the reasons that 382 is actually lower than normal is that we're not going to do a major project next year because of the low amount that will be left in water. We would rather have a higher reserve. We have been doing a lot of our capital improvement, water line improvements, and that has started cutting down on the reserves that we have left. So we need to start building that back up. So we'll come back and ask for a 2% increase in December for water rates, but we're not asking for anything more to try to cover what we have and what we spent on the water main improvements. Sewer looks good actually. 795 is what we estimate for our budget for the end of the operational year. 808,000 for revenue. Again, 67,628 because we divided 50-50 for staff. 627 is the operational costs. 73,000 in debt service. 485,000 in improvements and capital expenses. 1.253 total, and that ends up being about 350,000. And that's not bad. We'd like to keep it at 500,000. But we'll work our way back towards that, and I don't think we'll get to that bottom number here. And then debt service and capital improvement sales tax, that's what's helping pay for some of these projects. Rural fire is it's another revenue source that we have because those are the fire tags outside city limits. So that's extra money that the fire department has to use for expenses. Capital projects. Most of that is the old money from the levy after they didn't do phase 4, so it sits in a savings account. We have also deposited $325,000 from general fund over the last 3 years. The last of that's coming up this year. That was part of a sale from the PIPA building. So we will finish up, or maybe it was total of $650,000. We're just doing the last of it. Anyway, so that gives you what we figure our total will be. There is some expenses coming out of that. We have revenues, and that's what's coming in as transfers in. 408,000 is our capital amounts to expend, which again is our department total for expenditures. And then we'll have 2.8 million left in that account. And that's a general fund type account. So it is one of the few back down here that can be used in any of the funds that you want to use it for. And that's what gives us a little bit of cushion to bring the water department down some, because we do have some savings there that we can tap into. Same as general fund, in case something would happen that's major, like, I don't know, a water main break. If it was more disastrous than what it turned out to be, then we have money that we can utilize for that. So we start off, we estimate our balance at the end of, the balance at the beginning, October 1st at 7.1 million. Our total estimate is that at the end of September next year, we'll be at 5.6 million. So we roughly talk about a $5 to $6 million budget. So significant expenses. Any questions about the grid? Yeah.
Yes, you talked about on the water situation, a 2% increase. Well, a 2% increase won't near bring us back to where we were if we end up at 191,000. I mean, we're not even close to being back.
No, but we feel that we can, if without any projects coming up, we may do this for a couple of years, we should be able to save enough, because if
No,
you
so
got,
it's more than just a one-year
it may be,
program, right?
we want to see where we feel like we are at the end of next year, because we may be back up around 400,000, and then if we do another year, we don't do anything major, maybe we get up to 700,000.
So it's not the 2% increase, it's the lack of improvements.
Right,
Right.
right.
I mean, that is a little bit concerning, you know, in the
Why is
fact
that?
that we do have something major. So, what are alternatives if we do have a major?
And so we talk about either general fund or capital
Yeah.
projects.
Okay.
That's our backstop.
I guess I didn't remember from years past that our debt service was so high in the water department, $250,000.
Mhm.
What are we still?
Are we still paying on? And then the improvements?
Those certificates, the 2016 bond, and then that new bond that they took out for the new plant. We're still paying on those two.
Yeah. On the,
New plant.
The 2016, maybe it was water line repairs.
that's what I was thinking, it was water
Same as,
water
yeah.
main
Water
repairs.
repairs.
Water plants all the way back to 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
There may have been other, yeah, because there wasn't any other water main improvements. And Steve is going to be a little late tonight because of parent-teacher meetings before school starts. So hold that question, and we may be able to discuss that when he's up here
Right.
doing his presentation. So one thing we look at on the general fund is that where we look at what our unaudited balance is, where we end up, which both are in pink, and then below the pink, it tells me if we are overspending or underspending what the board has determined to be the threshold for the general fund, which is 50%. So we want to keep that above 50%, or 50% or above. So with the step increase, we're at 51%. So that was with salaries and benefits. On the next page, if you look at the step increase plus 3%, that ends us up at 50%. So we're just at that threshold, but that's where it sits. Now, to do that, I had to pull out one of the fire department's items, which was a $95,000 truck. So that's, again, the discussion that we'll have when we go through all the capital items, and whether you want that put back in, and then we'd have to figure out how to make that work by readjusting or cutting back something else. So what we're going to do is go through each department and look at the requests that we have individually. Alderman Bennett's been through the behind-the-scenes discussion on this. So now it's on this side of the table. So what we do is we'll go through each department, have them give you a little bit of discussion, go through the items, you ask questions, see if there's anything in particular you want to know about. We'll do it department by department. Like Steve with Public Works, he'll be multiple departments, I'm multiple departments. So it's kind of but it's also a chance to get to talk to the department heads too. So I know we get to do that at the meetings, but this is another chance. So what we're going to do is move on to David Bova with Community Development. Let him do his overview of what his requests are.
Good evening. So we're on, everybody has this page.
Community development, 3 similar requests to last year. The historic preservation grant, which we're still administering, haven't incurred any costs yet, so those costs, if you remember that event is September 30th, October 1st, so it'll be in the new budget year. So that grant will basically be paid off in the new budget year. So basically shifting that $15,000 to next fiscal year. Second one down is historic guide update. This is something we planned in the 10-year plan. The historic preservation guidelines were completed in 2001, so we need to go through an update there, not only through the ordinance, but also the preservation guidelines, and see if we need to do any updates there. And then the zoning code update, if you remember, that was on last year's budget, but the code software was slightly more than we anticipated, so we pushed it to next year, and that's what that would afford us to do.
That amount doesn't seem the same. I thought it was more than 20,000.
The zoning code update,
Yes. Does that include the
it
whole
was either
monthly
15
maintenance?
or 20,000 last year. I mean, we combined that and the code, online code, to pay the 18,000 together. One was 10, one was 15, so they were 25 together.
Right, I thought it was more than 20.
I may have refigured that also based on information we got since we came forward last year.
Any questions on those 3? I'll probably come to you later this year with a request to apply for another historic preservation grant, but that'll be for fiscal '25. All right, well, thank you.
Okay, next up is tourism. These items were left over from the previous tourism director. Tourism grants, which the board has approved, this is through the state, so it's a matching grant. 35,000 is the state, 35,000 is us, and that's one of the line items that we have in the budget. Full-time assistant, I've had that request from a couple of tourism directors that was put in for this year. However, I have not included that as part of the budget this year. Yeah, it's right below fire. Tourism officer. Yep. Visit widget, which was presented to the board, and there seems to be a lot of interest with the board. I want to make sure that gets into the budget. That's included, 14,000. Digital services is a catch-all. We increased the amount this year. I think we spent 3,000 or 4,000 in past years, so we are increasing that up to 8,000. It was requested 10,000. I've cut back on some of the things that we'll be spending money on since the change, but that's going to be an $8,000 line item. And then looking at the parking lot, talked with Chris Collins with the Parks Department, or National Park Service, and then with Steve Wilson. It's like, what can we do over there? And might be a good year to seal the parking lot, and we just repainted the stripes, but that was for sure theft. But maybe go through and just seal that parking lot. So half of that would be paid for by the National Park Service. So it's a 50-50 split.
So they're pitching it, so it's gonna be 16 grand to have that resurfaced or
No,
resealed?
just reseal. It'd be 8,000.
And they're gonna pay maybe 4?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that might change and that 8 might go down.
It may go down, yeah, if we can get a better price. I'm estimating high because it is a rough parking lot. I don't want to redo the parking lot. I'll leave that up to the Park Service if they want when we take the building.
And we still don't have a date or time when that's going to happen.
No, and that's not, I mean, it's a federal project and it's going to take time to go through all their processes and for us to even do our part. And we may even have another agreement with them, like the last one, but maybe reiterating some of the stuff we talked about. But we have to be careful with trying to put restrictions on it or requests because they may not accept it. So if you know that ahead of time, then just conversations like that.
Pretty sweet deal for them.
Can we go back to, so why did you pull out the full-time assistant on this one?
Because they don't think we have the budget for it. So we have 4 Welcome Center employees, and that runs us, we budget for it, we don't have 4, we have 2 right now. But if we had all of them, it'd be 36,000 plus benefits. And so another 36,000, one thing is I don't have office space, I don't know where I'd put them. The other thing is you could replace those at the Welcome Center with a full-time assistant.
If you added in that third person or fourth person as a full-time assistant, also did some catch-all with Welcome Center time.
Right, but you're looking at in addition to, so you're up to 72,000 plus benefits for, if you have all the Welcome Center staff there and you have a full-time assistant. And the thing with the assistant, and I don't disagree with what the desire is for somebody that can do the social media and keep up with that. That's the main thing. And then other small projects. Well, the tourism director then takes care of, and it depends on how you want that to go, either the marketing side of it, or that's the person that does your tourism stuff, that you want somebody to organize bus tours and help people with their tours around town and organize those kind of activities, which is not the way the job description is written right now. Right now, it's written to be a marketing type person.
So we're going to go back to potentially adding more responsibilities to the director position.
At this point, I'm going to advertise for a marketing director. I mean, that's what we have, and that was what decided on by the last committee that wanted somebody to come in and do the marketing. Want somebody to get the word out about St. Genevieve, get the tourists here, get them interested, find those paths to get to those folks, to make them interested, and bring them in for the park service, for the shops downtown, for the restaurants.
Will that one be part of that step increase then? Is that included in the tourism? Because it's not in here. So if we're doing the step increase that we're talking about here, is that including that salary with that step increase? Because that was probably one of the biggest ones, wasn't it? The step increase for the tourism director?
There really wasn't an increase. I mean, we're going to hire that person based on what's in that, in the salary scale. So it'll be from the low to high. It'll be within that range. So at this point, what I'm going to advertise is between 52 and 60,000 as a starting salary.
And that's what CVB, or not
CBiz.
CBiz put in for their, okay.
Yeah.
So that's included then already then, because that was an increase then in the budget for their salary?
Well, we already had Lynn's included in there, so that was 55,000 plus.
Well, that was on the lease side then, 55 up to 63 or something? Is that what you said the CBiz recommendation was?
No, they didn't really have a recommendation. What I'm saying is we have a $52,000 to $74,000 range. So what I'm proposing is that we start somebody between 52 and 60. I think that fits into our budget. If we want to go higher, we can go higher, but does that match what our other directors are making for the responsibilities that they have, as opposed to what this person's responsible for?
But I'm having a hard time saying we can't disagree with CBiz. If we're going with CBiz's all their other recommendations, I mean, it's tough for me to say one of us can pick and say, well, we don't want to do the step increase for this one position.
It's based on the step increases, but I'm limiting it because I'm putting it out there to advertise. If this is the range we'll start somebody, you can make up to 74,000 if you stay with the city long enough.
No.
So based on the first level of steps, say, and it depends on what the experience that person has.
Sure.
That would be higher than them have.
I mean, they're coming in with just having welcome staff and not an assistant.
Right.
And we're cutting their budget on digital services. So we've got a position that's pretty weak because it hasn't had a lot of consistency, and now we're cutting budget, not cutting salary, but cutting assistance and resources. So we're really putting this person behind the 8 ball.
Well, but you're increasing the widget, $14,000 that we didn't have.
If we continue with that, right? I mean,
Well, we haven't done it yet.
yeah.
So the assistant, we don't have an assistant now.
Right.
The assistant that's an added salary. So we don't have that now.
If we keep going back to what we were doing and actually regressing, we're cutting salary, we're cutting benefits, we're cutting marketing budget, and cutting a future resource that we were talking about, we're really putting this person behind the 8 ball, in my opinion.
No.
So And are we setting ourselves up for this person to fail? I mean, this is the one area, this is the one department that actually can generate revenue besides speeding tickets, right? And I don't consider, tickets as revenue. That's not really where I want to push the revenue from. But this is the one area, and I don't know how the board feels about that and where you guys feel on tourism and the value of putting money in marketing, but this is the one where, the state says for every dollar you invest, you get $9 back. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know. But this is the one area where we've had a bad track record, and now we're regressing even worse, in my opinion. Not much, but a little bit. So we're not.
Right.
And now the person is going to come in with 2, 3 months, 4 months of a vacuum where they've got to kind of come back in and pick that up. So this would be one where I don't want to see cuts, and this would be the one where I'm going to push really hard to make sure that this one's fully funded as best we can if we're going to start looking at step increases and even a 3% on top of that.
So what does fully funded look like? Going back to a full-time assistant?
And
Bumping digital services back up to 10?
at a minimum, I think we're not giving this person the resources they need to win.
So just remember, we're adding. We're not replacing. We're not bringing. I'm not cutting somebody out of the budget. The assistant doesn't exist.
Correct.
We're starting that position. And then the digital services, I think we're cutting back on some of that anyway, because some of that was stuff that I didn't see the need for, such as Google Workspace and the intense amount of Google Workspace that Tanlin wanted to use. Yeah. So we're going to cut back on some of that. I don't think that's a negative, because I want to utilize what we get from Microsoft OneDrive and the Microsoft Suite.
I am good with maximizing the step and the 3% and offering a decent salary to the person that we bring in. I don't know that I'm in favor of bringing back that full-time assistant right now. I mean, maybe we start at some point with a part-time assistant that can assist, but
I think we could be flexible, like you said, because we're still short 2 staff members down at the Welcome Center.
right.
So if you did some type of hybrid,
And
work.
again, we don't even know where we're going to be able to house them
Right.
for the entire year. But having one comment that got made to me by 2 people who I think are pretty well socially, they know all the digital things and stuff like that. They said with our situation, without a tourism director, we are not ready to do something like Visit Widget or one of the other comparable programs out there. And of course, technology definitely is not my strong point, I can tell you that. But, and I don't know if just budgeting a number just in the event that we do, but I would be hard pressed somewhere along the line to do that based off of what I've been told without having that person in place and stuff.
I think you're right.
Because how are we, unless I'm wrong, I remember in the guy that was zooming Visit Widget that day, in the first part of his presentation, he made a comment that it's going to take somebody's time here to be able to do this, and I don't want to buy something that we're not fully commended to go with that. I realize it's only $14,000, and I realize a budget is a educated guess after day one,
Not to
but I'm
cut you
going to
off.
be hard pressed to vote for it.
I would support that too, because I wouldn't want to go too many days past October before you hire. Because you're losing time every day you lose after that.
Pretty certain that it was going to require that full-time assistant to help keep that Visit Widget up and running, because that does take a lot of time. If you listen to him, it's not just the staff at the city level, but it's talking to business owners and the other entities and that are having to input information into Visit Widget to keep it up to date.
Right.
And so somebody has to be checking on them and making sure that the information is current and populated and all that. So you're right, that $14,000 in there is, if we don't have a tourism director in the near future and we're not funding the assistant, either full or part-time, we're probably throwing money away on the Visit Widget.
Doing it halfway seems foolish.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
But do we fund it now to implement later. I mean, if we
In
have
6
it
months from
here,
now, we have somebody on board and, yeah.
Right.
So.
I mean, it'd be better to have that money
Yes.
there if we're not depleting
Right.
it from somewhere else.
And that's what
As
we
long
just-
as we're not entering into the agreement
Right.
right now and spending that without utilizing it.
I don't want Happy in the next few months to try to have to navigate Visit
No.
Widget while we don't have a tourism director or nor a media assistant.
Well, Happy, is that not necessarily something you would even initiate prior to hiring the new tourism director, or whichever path we go?
I mean, if it gets budgeted, we would go into discussions with Visit Widget just to see what it would entail. Yeah, if it's too much time or too much energy on just one person's
Do
part.
you think it's
fine.
worth waiting until we get?
I think it needs to be budgeted so that that person that comes in, we say, we've done this investigation, this seems to be a program that would be well suited for St. Genevieve. You may have that person say, nah, I don't like it. So they'll
They
come
may
to you
have
with another
something else, but
suggestion.
Yeah,
But at least you got it budgeted to do something.
One person that was real strong against it and stuff told me there's numerous other ones out there, and I think this one was just the one that our previous director picked.
No, she looked at 2 or 3 different
Right.
ones. And this is the one that she narrowed down on saying.
Right,
it was-
this is the one that she picked,
Yeah.
right. So I'm not sure the next person is going to come along and say, that's my
Yep,
deal.
100%. I'm okay with leaving it there as a placeholder because you
Right.
never know what it'll be
And that's
4
what it
months
is, it's a
from now.
placeholder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
But my biggest concern is what our range is that we're going to be hiring the director, completely cutting the assistant and cutting back on digital services. I think we're really setting up this person to fail, and I think we're repeating the same process, but actually making it worse.
You got a
Where would
shot.
that other money come from? I mean, something has to,
Well, so.
We're in the first department. Well, I don't know. I guess Dave was pretty
Smallest,
modest.
right.
Yeah, Dave was pretty modest. So.
Immediately, Eric, it comes from 3%, not doing step plus 3, because that gets you 15,006 towards the assistant.
Well, I
You
mean,
gotta
my-
find 20 extra $1,000 at that point.
I mean, the sheriff's department, and I hate to beat this drum to death, but the sheriff's department just raised their starting salary to $71,000 for road techs. That's more than we pay our chief right now. Like, I don't think that, I can't not recommend the 3% on the step raise. I mean, I think we need to do everything that we can do for our employees. So I don't think that that's a feasible place to cut.
Sure. Well, now you're looking for the whole 36 grand.
I mean, to raise, and I'm not proposing this, but to
I'm probably over 36 if you're just talking about the assistant position.
Yeah, just
because
what's
the
budgeted
digital
on paper.
services and other marketing.
Yeah,
dollars.
true.
So I'm probably looking 45.
46.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 40.
yeah, plus benefits.
Yeah.
Which is 50% of their pay.
Yeah,
Close to it.
that was the easiest math for me to do at the table.
Right.
It wasn't it's not the best answer.
I don't
but
think it's the best answer. In my opinion, it's not the best answer, but, I mean, that's easy, but
Happy with our,
Taking the 3%, you mean? Is that what you mean?
yeah, taking the 3% would be easy, but I wouldn't be able to do that in good conscience.
I agree with
with our $35,000 match or grant, whatever we call it, that we get from the state, say it takes us till June 1 to hire somebody, is that prorated or is it, we lose out the whole entire year?
No, it's prorated. I mean, you're only going to spend what you spend.
Right. So it is prorated whenever we jump in and get somebody past October 1,
Oh, yeah.
then we get it prorated out by the month or something.
But we want to figure out what that's going to be fully so we know what to put in for the budget.
Right.
Because that will carry over to the next year, because this won't come back again. If we hire somebody, we keep them in the loop. And so we don't bring this back like every year. We want to hire, keep the assistant or something.
But that is a state grant, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, that's a match. So there's
Right.
35,000 to state, 35,000 us.
They can be containers at times, is passing out money.
So one thing you can look at, and I'll bring it up now, and this is a possibility, is that the PIVA building sale transfer to the capital projects is $125,000. You don't have to transfer all of it. You don't have to transfer any of it. But that's an agreement I came to with the board 3 years ago to get that money over to capital projects. So that's a possibility to cover the amount that would put us into a deficit. So,
I don't need to make a decision on tourism right now, but I
Right.
just wanted to
This-
kind of get that out there so as when we start talking to some of the other departments.
Yep, so this is the start. This is the way it goes. Okay. So good discussion. Let's move on to the police and Chief Crum.
Ours is pretty basic this year. First one will be the two SUVs to stay consistent with our 5-year rotation. And actually, we're looking at probably one SUV and one truck to replace one of the trucks. The other would be the radio for $28,000. $20,000 of that is to match on the ARPA grant that was approved earlier in the year that hasn't came out yet. And the other $8,000 will be 2 handheld radios short from being 100% digital. So that's to buy those 2 handhelds. And then after that, we'll be 100% digital and ready for the switch over. Copier, $8,000. That's for our main copier, scanner, printer, and the police department. And that's just on recommendation due to maintenance, just to replace that out at so many years to keep maintenance down and any repairs on that. And then the last line item is tasers. About 5.5 years ago, we bought all new tasers, and after 5 years, they quit doing any repairs on the tasers. Well, we're at 5.5 years, and we've lost 3 tasers. I'm pretty sure they're programmed to break after 5 years. We send them off for repair, and we get them back non-repairable. You have to replace them. So we've talked to Taser, and the best program they offer, it's kind of like a lease program. So you buy all new tasers, they break it out over 5 years payment at 0 interest, and that covers not only your taser, but all your training material, all your cartridges. If you discharge a cartridge, they replace it for free. And then at the 5 years, you own the tasers, but essentially you just need to trade them back in and start the program over, or you're going to be in the same boat again.
It's an ongoing
It's just an ongoing thing.
expense.
Yep. And they're the only company, so you have no choice.
And so they do include the cartridges.
Yes, that would be everything. The training cartridges, the training, they actually provide a training suit to do live training. So yeah, that'll include everything, the holsters and everything with them. That's it for the police department.
Were you asking for metal detector?
On the police department side, I did not.
Okay. Shows up in the remodel?
That I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Happy
Fair
may
enough.
have an answer for that one. I do
Fair
not.
enough.
So any expenses you have on the police cars don't show up under this line item, like fuel, tires?
No,
Right.
no, that's on just the normal budget items, not any capital expenses or improvement.
So with the take-home cars and stuff, you still feel that replacing 2 with the additional mileage and stuff is still going to?
I think so, because we were close on mileage, like being a little on the low side at the time. So now this will put us probably closer to about the 70, 80,000 mile mark when we're rotating out cars, which I think is probably good. Doing research, they say anywhere from 60,000 to 100,000 on city driving, you should be rotating out your cars for maintenance reasons. So we're going to be hitting somewhere right in that middle mark. I think one of the cars getting replaced this year is our K9 car, which is probably the most used, and it'll probably be a little over 100,000 by the time we rotate it out this year.
So as far as resale value, you don't?
That K9 car will probably have no resale value because you've got so much of the interior out of it to put the K9 cage in that it'll never go back the same. You're almost probably better off to sell it as a K9 car because we'll be switching brands, so the cage and equipment that's in it won't be reusable, so you're probably better off to leave it equipped and just try to sell it as a package to a department that can't afford new, and it'll benefit them, and you get a little bit of money out of it.
So the deal with not staying with the same is just the cost of the vehicle?
Well, because we had Ford in the past, Ford went up so much in price, and now Ford's talking about not even manufacturing police cars. And if they do, they're talking about maybe 2025, and then they're talking about going back to the Crown Vic and it being a hybrid model. So it's kind of up in the air right now. So Dodge and then the Chevy Tahoe, they're pretty close in price, and they're still about 15,000 less than the Fords are right now.
So the Dodge and the Chevrolet are about the same?
Yeah, the Dodge, we paid $44,000 for our last Durangos, and the Chevy Tahoes are right at the same price. And then the Chevy Silverados are coming in about $44,000, and then the Dodge Rams are coming in at about $39,000.
So the pickup, you're probably going to go to a Dodge?
Yes.
Right.
And even model years, most of the cages and everything don't fit like they change.
Yeah, they used to, like with the old, in the old days with the Fords, they kept them the same for so many years, you could just transfer equipment over and over. Well, now, about every 2 years, they change the interior, so your transport cages and all that no
It
longer
looks like
fit.
they're
So-
smaller every couple of years.
Oh,
They round them
absolutely.
off a little more
Exactly.
fuel efficient.
Yep.
No electric police cars?
Not yet, but they're pushing hard towards the hybrids, but I know the Ford Explorer hybrids, because they're in such demand, there was a couple of them left. They stickered for 55,000, and Sam Sisson Ford just sold them to 65,000. Shipped both of them, I think, to California. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, Chief. Do we want to talk about the step on step +3 while we got the chief up here? We want to talk about the difference? I don't know if the 3% increase across the board.
Across the board, everything's across the board on this.
Well, I just want to know for his department or where he stands on that topic, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think Eric touched on it. Right now, we're competing against, obviously, St. John County is our biggest competition, and with their raise, we've already lost one guy that's already put in his 2-week notice, and a second guy that's in the background phase of the sheriff department due to the pay. I know we'll never meet the $70,000 that they're paying, but we need to do the best we can to be competitive. And our biggest competition now would be the surrounding counties. So where are we at compared to the other municipalities? And they're all in the same boat with St. John County doing what they've done. They're going to lose their top guy, so they're raising their pay. So, I mean, it's going to put us in a bad spot if we don't do the step and the 3% to be a little more competitive.
Happy, how much this revenue, this 210 is Prop P, that amount has changed though, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's up. I think it was 190,000 last year is what we estimated. We saw an increase in this past budget year.
So our percentage has stayed the same, it's just the amount that it is.
Right. But that offsets part of what we pay though.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll get some relief by that increase. That'll help some of our step, what, about 20,000 or so?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want to include that. We look at it, again, as a total anyway for a general fund, but it helps offset the increase that you gave years ago to get them up to the level that they are now.
Right.
And that's why we want to keep moving it up.
And my fear, if we done just the step, based off my understanding from CBIZ, the step is to get us where we needed to be at the time of the study. So if we don't do the 3%, year one of the study, we're already 3% behind the gun from where we should be.
Not to mention, that doesn't go into effect until January of next year. So that's when the rate is so low, and we're already behind the 8 ball.
Right.
And I know that this is the unpopular opinion, but I think that we need to revisit the insurance coverages too, not coverages, but the amount that we require the employee to pay. Again, just in a competitive market, I think we need to do everything that we can do to keep the guys that we have and to try to capture anybody. I mean, obviously the sheriff's department can only hire so many people, so, I mean, we still have a shot at some of the academies, but now we're competing against the other agencies that are just leapfrogging, and unfortunately, I think that's just the way it's going to be for the next few years.
Just wish we could house some federal prisoners too.
Exactly. And they're sitting on a gold mine, that's for sure.
That's a big.
And they've done a great job.
And there's no way we can compete with them, but we need to be competitive with at least the surrounding municipalities, because we're all going to be fighting for what's left when the sheriff's department's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, up next is Steve Wilson, go over street, parks, and water sewer.
Overflow. Steve. So everybody got the list of capitals. So we had to start with the park department. Of course, we got the trail grant, restroom money there, and the mowing trailer. That's a landscaping trailer made for lawnmowers, side load, weed eater racks. Right now, we're using a old, I don't know how old it is, old utility trailer. It's got wood sides on it. Mowers barely fit on it. And, so trying to replace that unit there. And any questions on the park stuff?
The trail grant, when would that start? I forgot.
We should start construction next spring if everything works out like it's supposed to.
All right. We'll go ahead and move on to streets. 50,000 for stormwater. I think that's going to be up on 9th Street. 135,000 for a new backhoe. Current backhoe we have now, it's got quite a few issues for a 5-year-old backhoe.
We still have two?
Well, we have one. There's a shell of one back there.
Right.
So that's a replacement of a backhoe. The used dump trucks, that's something we've been looking for all year, we tried to find a new one. Couldn't find a new one. We expanded it to used vehicles. Starting to see some hit the market as other municipalities and water districts and cities and such are getting the new ones in that they ordered 2 years ago. So we're starting to see some trucks hit the market. So street projects, some of that is this year. 200,000 is for the upcoming budget. We got 62,000 for the TAP grant, 25,000 for the sidewalk reimbursement, and sinkhole repair on Oakwood. So that would be the south sinkhole far backside by Valley baseball field. That's washed, eroded to the point it's very hard to maintain. You can't get equipment in there to take care of it.
So what are you talking about doing there? Just kind of...
I think somebody needs to come in with a dozer, clean it up, reshape it, put a nice belly in it where we can maintain it.
But you're not actually that thing.
The structure, no.
Right.
So, but right now, we can barely get in, I'd say 25% of it to get maintenance done.
Just get rid of a bunch of the trees and
There's
stuff.
trees, if you get down in there's about a 6-foot washout at the bottom that we can't cross. So.
Back up on the street project. So, I'm sorry, so on that 477,000, you're only anticipating 200 of that for this coming year?
Correct.
And you're just... After that,
So we still have about 277,000 for this year's projects to be done. That won't be done until after October.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's carrying on.
Okay.
So then you have another 200,000 that you'll be doing.
Streets, any questions?
Yes, I got to ask you about the backhoe.
Current backhoe's still functioning, has no air conditioning, no four-wheel drive. Windows have been replaced already once, but it's not a reliable piece of equipment at this point. Now, we would like to save it for the brush site and the salt pile.
So we can't offset any costs because we're going to keep it.
Correct.
And the other one is not sellable?
And then we'd be using our brand new backhoe in the fire and in the.
No, I'm saying
No, no,
if
the one that
you,
you said was the shell.
That needs to disappear.
That's not sellable.
No, that thing, it's just about rusted solid. So, your backhoe's in better shape too.
mine's in great shape. I take care of it. Not to pick on anybody, but I take care of it.
Yeah. If you guys want to see it, come on by.
So is that basically just due to lack of maintenance, lack of
Maintenance, lack of skilled operating.
that's disheartening.
Yes.
So what is our solution that it doesn't happen again?
All our equipment's on a maintenance program now.
What about the
And
operators?
that was the backhoe that you acquired when Alliance took over.
Correct. We have multiple skilled operators on all sorts of equipment.
So what kind of a time frame? I know the dump truck is up in the air, but is the backhoe more attainable or?
Backhoe's more at a more achievable item, yeah.
Can you throw a dump bed on it?
A dump bed?
Pull a
Pull a
hydraulic
dump
dump.
trailer.
Yes.
the tractor. You want to talk about salary and your thoughts? I know probably where you're going to go, but with you guys being separate on Alliance, how are you guys doing overall on keeping your staff? Not directly the 3% for our city staff, but for you guys, how are you guys doing on maintaining and keeping employees?
We did have a position that was open for, it wasn't exactly one position, it was like one position, and then it got filled, and then opened up, and then filled. And so we went through a little spell where we had one position open for a while, but right now we're full staff.
So where's our contract with Alliance
We have 3 more years before renewal.
on Public Works?
Yes, on all of it.
On all of them?
Yep.
And we're tied to an increase there.
It's contract negotiations, so.
But we had a cap on that.
We do.
There it is.
We've included a percentage as the
Okay.
increase, but we'll still have that come before us before the end of the budget year.
That stormwater project up on 9th, would that be alleviated if we move ahead with the bigger stormwater projects, like the one we're going to be going to?
Two different areas.
Okay.
So what is in this $50,000?
I don't have the paperwork in front of me. Do you remember right off my head?
There's a number of, we got 2 things going on with that. We're getting an engineering study done on 9th Street.
Right.
And this was supposed to be a stopgap to get open a couple of the stormwater pipes that are up there now. They're going to spots where they're just dead ending. I mean, it's collapsed and there's problems getting the water at least away and off the street. Away
Nothing
from
under
the-
Market Street, right? Right.
No. It pretty much runs from what's up on Washington Maple down towards Jefferson.
I know it's pretty piecemealed up and down through there, so.
Yeah, if you look at the one on the east, storm drain on the east side of the road, that one runs under the road through a culvert and discharges on the ground, which is fine. The other
The government hasn't given us any idea of overall cost on 9th Street, have they?
Yeah, early on, it was around, I believe, $300,000 to $400,000.
For the whole street? So would this 50,000 be, it's just a stopgap, or would that have to be something that would be done along with a possible future project, or would it eliminate part of that?
I would say it would probably eliminate some of the smaller stuff on the top end.
Right.
Water and sewer?
Move on to water and sewer. You notice some of these items are combined, some are from this current budget year, some are new. So, first thing to note, the first item is water main valves. They're not water main valves, those are filter valves in the water plant. So those are the filter valves that allows us to redirect water, shut the filters down for maintenance. They're used, they're operated, each filter is operated at least once a week. There's 4 valves on each filter that operate in automation. They're getting to the point now where we have to work on them just to get them closed. Sometimes sometimes it takes us a good while to get them shut. So here is at one point they're not going to. Water tank maintenance, that's the maintenance agreement on the water towers, water tower inspections, clean outs, painting, all that's required by DNR. So, water plant roof, $37,000 for a new coating on it. Condensates, leaks when it rains around the skylights. So We get a good rain with some high winds, just about rains in there.
We can't recycle that rain and.
Well, everything we got's open topic. Next one's one of the combined ones, $175,000 on each side, water and sewer. That's in our current budget year, which is being carried over, because we're not expected to see the truck until January or February. So, same thing on the tanker truck, it'd be 80,000 water, 80,000 sewer.
These are both new vehicles?
Yes. So, the tanker truck, no, that's not going to be new, sorry.
We actually combined the tanker truck into the sewer department because of the low amount that we had in the water department.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Water well improvements, that's the cleaning of 2 wells, 2 of the city wells. We clean 2 every other year. We have a high iron, high manganese water table that we pull out of, clogs the wells up. Costly, replace the pumps about $12,000 now. If you don't clean them out, that's what you get. Start replacing pumps about every 3 months. So that'll clean out 2 wells. Price of cleaning out 1 well is substantially more expensive than cleaning out 2, just for mobilization purposes and chemicals.
Is this something you do or is that outsourced?
No, it's outsourced. So it'll cost you about $17,000 to do 1 well or $25,000 to do 2. Any questions on the water? All right, move on to sewer. Back truck, still the 175 being carried over because we're not going to see the truck. 140,000 in there for sewer main work. GIS equipment and subscription, that's 15,000. That is for our GIS equipment, which would be our data collection unit, and the subscription to maintain it. Current machine we have now, we've had for almost 10 years, and I think we spent $11,000 back then. The machine, we've kept it so long, it's no longer accepting updates, and it can no longer perform work.
It's a pretty important piece of equipment.
No machine, no data collection.
Right.
Again, the tanker trucks after that, and the wet well clean out, that'll be at the wastewater plant. That's a wet well between the 2 clarifiers. Hydrogen sulfide gas has pretty much ate up the concrete. It'll have to be recoated, cleaned out and recoated. So it'll get an epoxy coating after that.
That's the big tank outside the water plant?
No, that's the wet well in between the 2 clarifiers.
This back truck, that's also the same truck that does the jetting.
Jetting, power washing, vacuum, pumping, yes.
Yeah.
How many guys we got certified? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I learned another use on that and stuff from up there on 9th Street and stuff, sucking out those
Hydro
valves.
excavation, yes.
You know, of all of the stuff that gets down inside there and stuff. I watched them dig in there and clean out one of those by hand just to get, you know.
I did it yesterday.
Right.
How many guys we got certified on vac trucks?
We have 3.
Can we get 4?
We'll have more than that by the time we get a truck. The company that the truck's coming from offers a certification course with the purchase. 1 week on-site training.
But you are still going to keep the small jetting trailer.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, there's lots of times where you got to get into a situation where you have to use one jetty to pull over to another one. So.
Right.
All right. There's nothing else.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Kate Steiger with the Fire Department.
Good evening, everyone. Most of you are aware that over a year ago, we started a recruitment and retention committee that was formed with aldermen and firefighters to try to figure out what to do about our personnel issues. In fact, we're always shorthanded. And the first two items that we have listed in ours are brought to you at the recommendation request of that committee. The uniform line increase is basically at their recommendation, a $250 clothing allowance per man. Right now, when we put somebody on, we give them 2 T-shirts and a ball cap, and that's it. From that point on, anything they want, they have to purchase on their own. So this is a way of showing some appreciation for the job they're doing for nothing for the city. And it also will cover some of the things that get ruined doing our job. So we're asking for $250 a man, and we will have guidelines set on what they're allowed to purchase and everything set by myself with the committee. It'll be basically uniform T-shirts, pullovers, sweaters, and hoodies and things like that to help get the guys through. We have a lot of guys, especially like our maintenance crew on Wednesday night, to get in there and get greasy and dirty working on the trucks, and then they get ruined equipment. So we're asking for $250 a man, and that's based on a full roster. So we probably wouldn't use all that, but we have to base it on a full roster with the hope and desire someday that we do have a full roster.
And that is based on per man per year,
Yes.
right? Not, right.
Yeah. And that would also help, we also, when we bring them on, also give them a uniform after a year. And that's the blue shirt with the nice pants and a few things. Right now, we make them buy their own black shoes. This would be a way to have them be able to buy shoes or replace uniform things too, once their initial purchase is made. The second thing, the firefighter pay increase. Basically, right now, our guys get a $360 a year stipend, is what I would call it, and that's based on attendance at trainings and things like that. You have to make at least 3/4 of our monthly trainings to get the full $360. That's a recommendation request to the committee. They want to bring that additional $500 onto that, make it $860. So it's another way of doing something for the guys that are volunteering. Other than the Wednesday night crew and myself, my assistant chief right now, nobody over there gets anything for anything. And right now we're running between 225 and 250 calls a year. So there's quite a commitment from these guys. It's a way to show some more appreciation for them. The radio grant for the $176,000, this is the grant that I've been kind of talking about that we would apply through the AFG, the federal grant system. The $176,000 is based on an $8,000 per handheld cost estimate. This grant, if we go through with the application, probably won't be filed until August or September of next year. And if we were get lucky enough to get that funded, our portion is actually only 5% of the estimated cost here. So the total cost, if we would be granted, would be less than $10,000. But we put that in there because that's what the cost would be if we were to buy them outright. And that would bring us up to 100% compliance on the digital like the police department is. With the other grants that I've gotten in the past, all of our mobile radios will be up by that time, and we will have 8 handhelds that will be brought up to speed. But we have like 31 handhelds because we have some in different trucks, so a guy can grab one when they get off the truck.
Are your handhelds similar to the police department handhelds? Same unit? Or
I would assume so. We're looking at 8,000, Motorola 8,000, and they're running about $8,000 a piece right now.
So this is if you were to go out and buy all of those without any grant money.
Correct.
No, that includes, so grant funding is put in as a revenue line, and then the expenditure is going to be 176 total.
Right.
But our match may only be $8,000. But you have a revenue line that reflects that grant money.
Okay.
Thank you.
It'd be helpful to have that revenue line off to the side,
Yeah.
just to see.
That's just all the purposes. That's
Right.
Also,
Any grant is going to have a revenue source of
Yeah.
some sort. And it's going to be included with the 3.1 million that we have as revenue for the year.
In reality, if we apply for that grant, it probably won't hit until next year's budget. It probably won't hit in the one we're talking about now, but we have that in there so you can see it. The next item was 4-inch hose. Most of you are probably aware, about 4 years ago, I tried for a AFG grant to replace all our hose. Most of our fire hose over there is at least 25 years old. And to replace all the hose, the grant was for $80,000. But according to their criteria, we don't run enough house fires to qualify for that grant. So it kind of dropped back to the back burner. We do buy a few pieces of hose every year that replace that have holes or whatever. But for the majority of it, our hose over there is at least 25 years old and really ought to be replaced. And that was the cost on the 4-inch. So if we do 4-inch maybe this year and maybe look at doing our smaller attack lines and things like that next year's budget, like a half and a half thing. The fire truck, light rescue, basically what I had in mind there was like a 1-ton dually utility bed. When COVID started, we switched from running all our EMS calls in the great big rescue truck and started running them in our little pickup truck. And we can put 4 people in that cab. And that way it was an easier truck to clean for COVID reasons. And it was a smaller truck because honestly, most of the time when we go out on EMS assist, it's go get the stretcher or help lift somebody up. It's not really a big deal. We don't need a lot of equipment. So it was keeping the miles down on the big truck. And part of the problem with running that little truck is we carry EMS supplies and electronics in there like an AED. I can't keep that in the bed because the bed gets wet. So I have to keep that inside the cab, which takes away some of the seating and makes it tighter in the truck to try to get some manpower in there. So what I was looking at there would be like a 1-ton 4-door cab utility bed that we can put the things we have in the cab in a utility bed on the side of the truck and have some room for additional storage. That truck would basically replace our pickup truck right now and be used for a utility vehicle for manpower transports for mutual aids and that kind of stuff too. And we were just ballparking at about 95. There used to be a thing called the state bid that you could get pickup trucks like we bought our last pickup truck. Right now the state's not doing that anymore. They use a preferred vendor. They tell you that you should buy it from this company and that's all they really do. They don't have the cheaper vehicles, so we were figuring that is a stock truck and probably a $20,000 bid being put on there. The turnout gear is just part of our annual replacement. We try to do 4 sets a year. For NFPA, you're not supposed to use any gear over 15 years old. And we start off our people with whatever gear we have available. And after they get a little bit of time in service, then we try to buy them some decent new gear. And all our gear is custom fit, so it fits better and it makes it easier to work instead of just buying stock stuff that might be great big and baggy on somebody. So we just try to do 4 sets every year. We got lucky last year because we had the 4 sets in the budget, and we got an ARPA grant for 4 more sets, so we got 8 sets in this current budget year. Open to any questions?
I don't know how to bring this up, but anyhow, I'll just throw it out there. Mike and I was on the committee. We spent several hours meeting with Kenny and the department heads there, trying to find a way. Full staff is how many?
We were rostered for 29.
29, and we're down
I'm down to 5 right now.
5.
And in November, potentially 2 more, so a total of 7.
Those 2 in this fall and stuff, I guess, was the part that was pretty scary. They're, what, 40-year veterans?
I've got one that is going to retire for sure in November, and he's got 46 or 47 years. The other one is having second thoughts about walking out cold turkey, so he may hang on a little bit, but he's in the 43, 44-year range. And we just lost a 50-year guy last year.
Right. That's the part that, to be down 7 people out of 29, don't know if this is the right answer or not, but this is the best we can come up with. Was trying to do something to give them something. I know we've heard comments, from the board here that this is a brotherhood. It's a, all of the above. It's a hobby. It's not working out that way anymore. We're going to have to do something to try to keep people.
It's a hobby until your house catches fire.
Exactly. And when my house catches on fire, I want to know that people are going to be there. I think this is a cheap investment in security.
If I may, we talked about in the recruitment retention, doing things like pay per call and everything. When you look at that, we're running on average 230 calls a year. If you do a $10 per person call, look how much that's going to add up to versus what we're doing here. And we average on a typical call 8 to 10 guys, so 10 guys times 10 for every call. That's a bunch of money. This is a way to show the guys that we actually think about them. And we've always had, for other agencies within the city, clothing allowances for uniforms. Back when Public Works was there, we had uniforms. And for the volunteers that put their butts on the line all the time, we give them 2 T-shirts and say thank you. And that's all we're doing for them, so. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, so we'll go over the rest of the budget areas. Back to the front page, the main page. We'll start with legislative. PIVA building sale, this is what we started, I think maybe 4 years ago actually. So we started with $300,000 and then worked our way down to the last payment of $125,000 out of $625 that was owed to the projects fund. Administration, the City Hall boardroom, number of items that we talked about on that. Our budget request is $550,000, recommending that. Copier, our copier is 5 years old. I've seen copiers that begin to deteriorate at 5 years and it becomes an issue. And we've had some issues with it the last few months. We're looking at getting another copier, budgeting $8,000 for that. For the ARPA funding that we have administration, we have the website, which we had budgeted or talked about earlier as part of the ARPA funding that we're spending. And then we have leftover stormwater money that was for engineering. So we still have a review of the last 2 areas that we looked at. And then we also have a review that's being done on the Progress Parkway side that we haven't gotten back yet. And that's being done through a different group. So we should have a report on that, but that is part of the funding that is where that comes from. Any questions on those two?
Oh, I'm sorry, so you're using leftover ARPA?
That isn't leftover. That was what was approved 2 years ago when we budgeted out how we wanted to spend the ARPA money, which we have to allocate it by 2024 and have it spent by the end of 2026. So part of it was for our website, and part of it is we haven't had all the stormwater done, any of the stormwater engineering, and that's what we're waiting for.
So have we recognized the revenue then on that already? And
Oh yeah, that's in your capital, it's in capital projects.
Okay.
I know this $550,000 seems like a lot of money, but, if you get around to any of our neighboring communities, you'll see we are behind Gable there. But, we have an older building there. We've put money in to partially do it. Now, my understanding is this will basically have all of the mechanical systems, everything, wiring, heating and cooling will all be up to date, along with some better offices and things like that. But I know it is a lot of money, but I'm telling you, I think it's money well spent. I don't know that we can do it any cheaper, than that and stuff. But I think it's something that needs to be definitely done, and stay where we are, build on what we have. You didn't have any parking lot improvements in that fund, did you?
That's next phase.
Right.
I think for the next budget year, we'll look at.
Yeah, because that needs to be addressed. But
I'd like to do parking lot and exterior, building exterior.
I get feedback on that. We're renovating an old building, and what would it cost to, what would $1 million? We can look at the police department, you look at the city hall side, boardroom, and then, outside and parking lot. We're knee deep in it now. I don't know how we pull back, but,
I think you have to look at, and you know about this because you're in real estate, you'd have to purchase the land first. Where do you put it? And we're downtown, and that seemed to be a big issue too. It's like, we would like the city hall to remain in the heart of the city.
yeah, but we're lacking retail space too in the downtown area. So you could look at it both sides. Should the city hall be there? We move we moved the fire department outside of town for accessibility, you know, so, I'm not gonna question, you know,
Joe,
we're in the middle of the stream at this point. I don't know how you get out of the middle of the stream.
Well, I can only say we didn't wake up one day and hop in the middle of the stream. There was a previous board that researched and
Spent a lot of
did their
time.
due
looking at
diligence,
the
and that
building.
was the solution they came up with. I understand one board's decision won't carry through to subsequent boards, but you can assure those people that we looked at all those things.
In real estate, the buzz term is location, and I think we was the determining factor, and it was big enough, and yeah, it needs more than this and stuff, but it's best overall. That board came up with best overall decision was to,
Best use of funds, I guess, per se.
Yeah, we looked at 2 buildings. We looked at a cost for building new. I mean,
yeah, you're looking at it, well, deal with real estate, to buy the property and build the building, you're looking at 2.5 times as easily.
I'd be happy to help you answer questions if you get them come to that.
Copiers just wear out. East Town. Drones and all of that stuff.
Any other questions on that? Work your way down the page to the tourism tax. There's a marketing line there. So this is the TTC money that we have revenues. We're up to about 75,000 now, what's actually been banked. We've dedicated 40,000, kind of based on discussions that we've had with TTC. So what you're doing is improving the 40,000 total. TTC will then divvy it up where they want it to go. So that's what that 40,000 is for. And it has to be done for tourism. It has to be done for bringing tourists to St. Genevieve. On the back page, we have the capital projects line. Engineering and comp plan. Engineering is for 9th Street. Comp plan is the comp plan that we're continuing to, we hope we'll have finished by the end of the year. So that's the remainder of the funds to pay for that. And then cybersecurity, that is what remains out of the ARPA funding that we're using for our cybersecurity improvements. So that'll include phones and other items that we work with / to approve.
And how is that working out?
So far, so good, except for right now, since we don't have the phone lines that we're supposed to have, because the phone company that we're moving to couldn't get everything done on their end for the PRI, which is the type of phone system we're connected to. They couldn't get it done until next Thursday, because at the 3 month, they had to have 3 months to do it. Well, we got it put in at end of May, well, now end of August, that's 3 month mark. So they'll finish the PRI next Thursday. Hope to have the police department running on Friday and the city hall running on Monday. Right now, we're running kind of a cobbled system of 2 phones, and that's it. We have 2 lines that work. We can call people back. We can run up here and talk on the phone. I mean, however it works. We're going to make it work.
So we only have phones in one spot?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's bought.
Just like the old days.
50-foot extensions.
So we're installing some call boxes out there.
As long as you don't have to climb the posts like Green Acres.
Drive through and see that the light's flashing, you know you got a call coming in.
Well, that's basic.
It may be coming.
Wasn't that long ago.
No. And then at the bottom of that, on that back page, is kind of our large ticket items. It was requested that we list those out, so you know what the amounts are that we're paying for some of the, like health insurance, liability, those kinds of expenses. Everything else is built into the budget.
These aren't increases, correct? These are just
This is what we were approved.
anticipate, yeah.
Yeah.
So heavy on the workman's comp side, I know we had big claims. That still stays on, what, is it 3 or 5 years?
1 more year. it remains one more year.
Was 3
3
years,
years.
right? Yeah. But then, that's not that much difference though, is it?
No, I think it will be, because your mod number will come down significantly.
Right,
We had a significant number in that first year,
right.
so pulling that out is gonna be pretty significant. And then you catch up with not having your public works department and street and parks
Right.
included in that.
So what was our mod factor? Was up over 2, which means we're paying 2 times the normal. Right.
Yep.
I think we have a little bit of surplus in the band, but no, they're not
Oh, band, that's
anticipating
all right.
there's nothing in there, so they're
That's
not
a
asking for
Well,
anything.
band is, you'll see that on the, they're not asking for anything.
That's what
I don't
I'm-
include them, because they're gonna purchase what they purchase.
Yeah.
They ask us for a flat amount, we put the flat amount in as the budget number.
Cemetery, same way, you didn't anticipate much difference there besides maybe some tree trimming this year?
Right, let's see, what did so we got the grass cutting, that contract will be up, so that will increase over what we've had in the past, what I estimate. And then we got a request to do some limb cutting that's out in the memorial cemetery. There's a tree with a big limb that hangs out over Fifth Street, so we're looking at getting that cut. And then, I probably overdid that with the amount, but if we have any other trees that we need to take care of, we can do that as well.
And no projects with special road district?
They were no, because we don't have any revenue coming from them for any of the street projects that we're doing. They're just talking about doing Bull Rock Road. So that would be in
We don't
theirs and up
have to,
with
we don't
ours.
have to match on that one? I thought they were asking for a match? Okay.
Nope, they were just asking if they could do it.
Yes.
What's that?
Happy, back to the cemetery, had a question come up here a while back and stuff. Down on, I guess, the side next to Eric Scott, there was a little section added there. We put in did we put that little short piece of road in? And is that our portion of the cemetery?
I'm assuming all of it is, without the,
Yes, it is. The part he's talking about.
yeah, because, it's a little section where the road goes out to Rozier. Yeah.
No, this is just a little short, it's the very end down next to M Road.
Right. So you have, this is the cemetery here, this is the memorial, or not memorial, Crestlawn Cemetery here, and then there's a long piece, but it's thin, that would be the road that goes out to, M.
Yeah, no, this is just a dead end.
On the new part that we added, there's just a little section that we
Right.
extended from the middle over to the new part. So
Oh, you're talking about the road extension we did last year?
Yes.
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
I just noticed.
So, but that's not the end of the cemetery property. That was just, we're gonna eventually extend out further, or can extend out further.
But it's always been that block or brick wall has always been kind of the deciding between what's our part and what's the church's part.
Right.
But that little section out there doesn't kind of line up with that wall, if that wall was a straight line. There is no wall there, it just,
I don't know how that, without a survey on something like that,
right?
you know.
What's the question?
Well, there's been several graves put in there recently and stuff, and they were questioning, because the area outside the wall is non-Catholic, and inside the wall is Catholic and maintained by the church. But I didn't have an answer for what that little section was.
Because it filled up and we had nowhere else to go, so we had to extend south.
Right.
So,
But there's
Not
also
extend-
spaces available, or spaces that have been bought, that get filled in on occasion.
Right.
If somebody dies,
Right.
and that may be what they're seeing. All right, any other questions on what we presented? I see Alderman Steiger has the line items out. If anybody wants another copy of that, we haven't changed anything on that. I can get that to you.
What's next on the agenda?
Okay, so you can either finalize the capital request tonight, you can finalize the increases, rate of pay, and then we also have city administrator compensation as part of discussion tonight. So this is where you can decide how you want to proceed. Because you got everybody here, so if you have any questions, we can, if you still have another question that I can't answer, we have the people here to answer that.
Have we agreed on any of the capital items that we've went through so far? We've had a lot of
think
good
we just
discussion.
listened to 'em,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as presented, it comes down to the step plus the 3, or the step without the 3. And these are the numbers that we have to look at with everything that was presented tonight, correct?
Correct. So if you make any additions and no subtractions, we have to figure out where we're going to balance that with the general fund. And again, with the other funds, you also have the amounts of what we expect those bottom lines to be at the end of the budget year. And you can look at those and determine if you want to pull something out, add something in. If there's something that we didn't capture as an improvement or as a job that you want done.
Happy at the last meeting, I asked a question, this amount of money that we're looking at, this $62 or whatever it was, amount for sidewalks that we're going to have to repair, and we have a good probability we may not get reimbursed for several $1,000s worth of those. I don't see that number. I mean, is that just the general revenue?
That'll come back as a capital improvement for streets. I'm not budgeting in anything right now because we don't have any lengths of repairs that we need to make. And depends on the amount of reimbursements that are asked, I'll pull it out of that line item if we decide we need to repair some sidewalks.
Resident that just moved to town.
If nobody makes enough requests where we're utilizing those
That's how you
funds.
ask for it.
Well, that number I gave last week too is elevated. So I think I told you in the realm of 40,000. We've had another one that's doing it themselves. It's probably going to come down to 20 or 25,000.
That's good.
But we could still recoup some of that money down the road. It's
Right.
probably not going to be in the budget year, right? It could be 2, 5, 10 years down the line.
Mark Bishop is also drafting a contract or an agreement that they could sign where they could pay it this year or they could pay it over 10 years, and that's a state statute.
And the only one item I have a hard, Steve, I'm not questioning your expertise and stuff, just really having a hard time with that backhoe because that was $125,000. And I'm wondering, to have a machine of whatever value it is, I mean, I would think it would be just to push that, and you're right, I don't want to take the new backhoe over there because I know it was caught on fire twice, I mean, something cheaper than a backhoe to push that back, because I mean, did we use the backhoe or did we use just the front end loader?
We use both.
Both.
Yeah.
Do we have a front end loader?
We still have John Deere, don't we? But it's not big enough, I don't think.
What's that?
That John Deere that we had the sickle mower on,
Yeah, we still got the tractors.
but that's not big enough to push that.
No, there's no loader.
Right. That's right.
I mean, those are probably my two that, the 3, the tanker truck, we're buying used, so I mean, that's a savings there. We're gonna probably make do with that, and then the new vac truck, and the new backhoe, of course. Those are two of the biggest ones.
Is that tank truck used?
Is that-
Our current one we have now?
No, the one you're talking about buying,
Tanker truck or the back truck?
the tank.
The
Tank truck would be used, a used vehicle, yes.
Okay. I thought it was the new one.
I mean, I've seen the vac truck work, and I mean, I know how valuable it is. It definitely makes light work of some of that stuff that you guys got to get into.
Yeah, that truck was actually purchased last October. We're just still waiting on it to be built.
And are these, and I apologize if this is an innocent question.
We have an existing I'm sorry, we have an existing contract on a vac truck?
Yes.
Yes.
But these aren't general fund expenditures, are they? Are they water
Water and
department?
sewer.
Water.
So they're dedicated funds, it's not a general.
And with a 2% water rate increase, I know we're gonna have people asking again. I mean,
Right.
it's, you know, it's every year we get the
Yeah.
rate increases, so,
And then that's why we're down to 190,000 also.
in the funds. yeah.
Right.
Backup. Yes.
Yeah, we had the consolidated plan, and we wanted to really get after that. Well, we got after it a little too quickly.
I do have a question on the fire stuff. Going back to the truck request and the radios. So the 176 is the total bill for the radios, but that is not netting out the grant money that we could receive. I mean, am I correct there so far?
Grant money is going to be reflected in revenues.
Right, but I mean, it's not on here because we don't anticipate that hitting this budget year, correct?
No, it's included already. It's just that we're reflecting what the expenditure is going to be. So that when we come in and say we need to write a check for $176,000, so we can get $165,000 as a reimbursement.
Right.
We're not
So
hitting-
we have to cut the check initially and then we get reimbursed back.
Yeah.
But
That's
that will
what-
not happen until next budget year probably.
Now that we're looking out, now it may not happen until the next year.
Well, and I see it as a total expenditure with no grant offsetting, so and I know we cut the truck out of the equation. So are we just anticipating just having to float that amount of money for a certain amount of time at the end of this budget year, carrying into next budget year?
Oh, yeah.
So are we then anticipating being able to add the truck back into, because we backed it out, right, for 95.
Right.
But I mean, our total cost, once we receive the grant, would only be maybe somewhere at 8,000 out of our pocket. But we're dinging ourselves for the total amount now. I mean, are we making a plan to put that truck back into budget for next year? Is that
We'll
what-
look at it and see.
Okay.
We do have a fire truck in the next couple of years that we'll have to budget for.
Right, and I see that in our 10-year plan, and I've had some conversations with Chief about it too. I mean,
But we're not guaranteed that radio grant, right? I mean,
we're not guaranteed.
and we need to switch from analog to digital. I mean, that's why we're spending all this money for St. Francis's repair.
Correct.
I mean, we're spending we got double billed, and you're not going to get me to say that that wasn't worded incorrectly. I want the services, but I don't think that tax initiative was worded very fairly.
I don't want to relitigate that.
Well,
I agree with you.
So we have to keep that 176 in there, because if we don't
No,
get the grant, we got to spend.
I get it. I just, I see a lot of line items for the other departments, and I know, Chief was hoping to get that truck, and I see we backed it out. So I was just more or less advocating for his side of it here. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that we keep that in mind, whether it be, obviously we may not get that grant this year. If for some reason we would, I mean, is that something we could reconsider at that point? Because we would have, potentially.
We do a budget amendment then, and add.
So if we don't include that, we don't include the radio grant, then the revenue goes away too. So your revenue line is going to reduce by $165,000.
Right, but I just didn't see it captured here. Was it already included in this revenue number?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
So-
why I mentioned a while ago, I'd
Well,
like to
and
have
the only
another
reason
column.
I was thinking that is that it wasn't is because I see like the Prop P money is here, but I thought that item would be on this grid here somewhere. It may, if I'm missing it, I'm sorry.
No, because we did that, I did that a couple of years ago. Nobody understood when I was doing it,
Okay.
when I put it in for Welcome Center grants. So I've left that out.
Okay.
I don't show it as a revenue, as a dedicated revenue, as opposed to the property tax.
Right. So in this 3 million or so that we're talking here, that, whatever that amount may be that we're anticipating that grant to be for is included in that number. Okay. That's all I was just clarifying, because I didn't know if that was supposed to show in this, so, that was the only question I had there with regards to that.
Maybe this is the wrong time to ask this, but when did the state bid go away for, we're buying police vehicles in our state general?
There's only one contractor, and now it's preferred contractor instead of we used to have choices between different vehicle groups. They've all just abandoned the state purchasing policy, and I think only Dodge has given them a quote on what these vehicles will cost. The rest are buy it off the lot. They're not bidding it out anymore. So it was this past year after COVID, and that just kind of kicked it off the track.
So are you inclined to not include the backhoe?
No, I don't want to shut up that question Steve's expertise or judgment of the backhoe. It's just, I thought we had a machine for the next 5 or 10 years.
So my understanding was after the loan is paid off, which is this year, that the backhoe would be traded in for a new one. And we do another lease purchase. So what we're asking is that we are able to keep the existing one, so we don't have to use the new one in these places we don't want to use it. And then we just get rid of that other piece of junk that we have sitting in the back. So that's why we're asking for a backhoe this year.
Right. Any idea of what the trade-in value of that would be if
We're still gonna need a used
I
backhoe.
understand, but I was thinking about something less than a backhoe, just a front-end loader maybe, but that's why I asked if they use the backhoe for it also. Because I know years ago when we bought this one, we were gonna take the backhoe off of the old one and not use it because it was unsafe. And I don't know, whatever. We just didn't use it.
I mean, Steve, if you look at a backhoe, you look at a back truck, you look at the tanker truck, tanker trailer, there's a lot going out in streets and water and sewer, of course, and that's, some of our biggest line items, departments. If you got by another year with the current backhoe and we pushed that one back a year and just got stuck with the maintenance costs, I mean, we do have.
That's up to you. I mean, we can do that with the current backhoe, just to continue to deteriorate,
But we're not going to trade it in anyway, right?
Right.
We're going to be using it for
we're going to use it anyway.
not pushing up, brush and pushing off salt. I mean, we still be using it as 135. If we bought a backup, you can buy four-wheel drive 40 grand to buy a lot of four-wheel drive backhoe.
I mean, that may be an option we look at.
Any idea, I know you said the four-wheel drive was out, and I know the air conditioning is out, what that would cost to fix, or we don't know?
Did it have AC on it?
Yes.
Oh, it did. No, it's just broken.
Yeah, it was caught on fire a couple times down at the brush site, burned all the wires and the lines up.
But we don't know what those repairs would cost.
Air conditioner was $3,000 the first time they burned it. Second time it's worse.
But the four-wheel drive is probably the bigger.
Yeah, that's something in the front plan too.
Well, all things considered, I think we have a balanced budget that is within our 50% guideline that was given previous to this with the 3% increase on the step. So I would make a motion to approve that.
Well, Eric, is that without the tourism assistant full-time? Or
That's as it's proposed. So without
Without.
the assistant.
So I just want to take a minute to shock Joe Steiger and agree with him on tourism and advocate for that. I'm on record for having the opposite view earlier, but if we're going to do something, we should do it to win. And I fully agree with Joe on that. So I think we should consider that 36,000, which probably puts us, if we did that as is, Eric, I think puts us at like 49.6%. So I guess.
Did you calculate the math on that?
Yeah, but don't test me, because I would defer to you and I would defer to Brian on that, and Sue, obviously, but, I mean, if you dip to 49.6-ish%, do you need to pass an ordinance, or how does that work? Do we want to do that?
I think it was just a guideline that we,
Not
that
by
previous
ordinance,
boards.
right?
It's a resolution that's supposed to be upheld as a policy.
Right.
But my spreadsheet, if it's 49.6, it's going to show, it'll reflect 50%. If it drops below 49.5,
Well,
it'll show 49%.
sure.
I mean,
It's a little cheeky.
there's some pay raise considered for this position, going off of the step plan, over what we were paying for a tourism director before.
Right.
Is there any belief that a better paid tourism director position will attract a more qualified?
Sort of like when you advocate for a police officer raise, do you think you might get higher quality
Yes.
personnel? So I'd say
So, I mean, is there some possibility that a more qualified tourism person could handle the responsibilities without a full-time assistant and look at a
I don't think
part-time
we need a
assistant?
full-time assistant. I think if you do a hybrid of one of the welcome center persons that we need to add in and kind of make that, because I don't think that staff person, to start with, let them justify it. I think start
Right.
with a part-time social media assistant, and maybe the other time that they spend, manning the hours at the welcome center. And then let them come back a year from now to justify a full-time position.
Or, and this is a terrible suggestion, so, I mean, there was talk at the last meeting of hiring a firm for some portions. Do we hire a tourism director, use funds that we would have used to hire a part-time person, and dedicate a firm to do the social media stuff that knows what they're doing?
Well,
I don't think that's a
Happy-
bad option, personally.
yeah,
it's the same.
Happy indicated, if we hire somebody at the last meeting, we're still going to have to pay for something else, whatever, social media, that is and stuff. There's something else that's going to come along with this and stuff. But you quoted something earlier, Joe. You said something about for every dollar you spend, you can expect $9.
That's what the state Department of Tourism and Economic Development, they've done studies, and
I've never heard that number and
for
stuff.
every dollar you invest in marketing, you're supposed to get back 9.
I mean, it's, again, my ignorance, but it seems like our budget should reflect that then. If we're spending however much we spend, $136,000 on tourism a year, then our budget should be 9 times that, and it's not.
Well, it depends on,
Our revenue is not that.
Well, but is that $9 what comes into all of the businesses that are affected to it? Not necessarily the $9 are coming into ours as our portion of the.
But the
I would think
$136,000 we're spending is coming out of our
Right.
budget. Which
Right, so I
again
don't know if
is comprised of the money that they're spending in taxes. So I get that
Right.
argument, but I don't think that,
It's not.
and I don't mean to buck the
I find it hard to
statistics.
believe 9-1. I find it hard to believe, but even
I'm
if
not
it was
saying
2
that
to
there's
1,
no
even if it
value.
was 2 to
Right.
1, you know, I mean, if we go to the very other extreme, you know, or just 1 to 1, I mean, what other
Yeah.
department gets back $1 for every dollar you
Yeah.
spend? You know, so that's, you know,
I get that.
yeah.
But I would love to see in the future spending more money on economic development and take a chance on increasing our sales tax revenue over a gamble of throwing money at tourism and marketing
I think.
as our sole source of saving our town.
Right. So happy with, kind of on that line and stuff, you know, there's no numbers in here for a projected cost involved with a new subdivision. You know, because we're talking about some way to fund, right up front, $1.5 million road extension. Where do we pay for that? Because that is economic development. How do we fund that?
I don't know. We haven't decided how you want to fund it because we haven't gotten that project brought to the board and presented as a plan, and then how much the city wants to participate, and then where you decide to get that funding from.
Right.
That's way too preliminary to put into a budget.
Right.
But we have those funds in capital projects and some of those things, you know, so we have that nest egg that we've kind of been pretty good financially and a good steward, hopefully, of taxpayer money. So we have that money there that we could use for those, or, you know,
It still looks like it's gonna be a bond issue and stuff rather than just a
It's
capital
going to be a
improvement.
bond issue. I mean, I can't imagine.
Anything but a bond issue, right?
I think it has to be.
So,
I just, for that price tag, and,
right,
you know, the county has said that they're going to help us, but we don't know to what extent. So.
right. Now, I know I've posed this question to you before because we've talked about different bond issues. We talked about as much as $14 million and stuff to redo all of our streets and stuff, but we don't have, I don't see where we have the funds to pay for any bonding issues. I know we have the assets to be able to bond for that much money, but I don't see the money in here to be able to pay for it.
And that was part of the question is, where is that funding mechanism coming from? Are you going to utilize the existing capital improvements tax that we have? Right now, that's helping pay for City Hall. You have a water tower payment that's going to be coming soon from the county in '26. So that comes out of that capital improvement tax. That's been dedicated to that. There's a loan on there right now that goes away. In '26, yeah. So that's when we take over the payment of the water tower. So if that's one of your sources, or you're going to pull it out of the general fund, I think that's when you talk about the general obligation bond issue, is that you're looking for some sort of funding mechanism to help pay for that.
And that's where I operate a little on the side of caution and stuff because we have these things coming up, any number of things and stuff, and we're all based that off of existing revenue that is guesswork. You know, we base that off of always being the same year after year. So.
But the great thing about this is we're talking about bringing in rooftops, right? So we're looking at 100, 150, 200 new home sites with not only property taxes, but sales taxes off those, you know. So
that's our economic development.
Yeah, I mean, even more so, right? So add in some additional potential there.
Other than just meeting up the existing taxpayers.
And that won't be an overnight type of development. So you could be 10 to 30 years down the road. So it's not immediate that you're going to see that those taxes are going to reflect in what your revenue is. But that's the growth that you're looking for.
The people we've polled and surveyed have told us that it's a problem. It needs to be addressed.
Lack of housing, is that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking of.
Lack of available housing.
Available. Available.
Right now, currently, there is one home, non-commercial, there's one residential home for sale in St. Vincent.
I know where there's two, right by me.
It's probably pending. So if you look at some, yeah. So I looked yesterday, so I could be wrong, but as of yesterday, there was one home that was for sale that wasn't pending or under contract.
Ridge, right?
That one just went live, so there might be two now. There might be two. So
I seen two signs, but I don't know what they're thinking.
I've made a motion.
There's a motion on the table.
I will second your motion.
can you restate your motion? I'm sorry.
To approve the step increase plus 3% budget as it's been proposed.
Discussion. I'm going to probably beat up Steve on the backhoe. I'm going to probably go after those additional funding for the tourism department. So I'll probably vote no on your motion because I'd like to see just a little bit of work done on a couple of those little things.
Well, I think
Might beat up cheap on an $8,000-9,000 copier, push it off the next year. Maybe they can use the new one in City Hall if theirs breaks down for a temporary amount of time. I don't think you can come out here and do it. I understand that, but so.
And there's probably
That's
isn't
the only two or three little areas. That's where I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, I'm just saying theirs probably isn't as bad as ours. Ours gets used because, if you look at all the paperwork that we produce, this is why we look at doing that, but both of them were purchased at the same time last time, so it was including them both. So yeah, you want to push off the copier, we can push that off.
maybe just swap them. You take the police departments, they can take yours for a little bit, get the use on it, and then we'll be looking at buying two next year.
We'll wear that.
Rotate the tires.
Exactly. So Steve has said that there is a possibility that they could put some money into fixing the backhoe.
And buying a used one.
And buying a
get us,
used one.
And then next year, look at it, maybe a new one, so we have a.
I wouldn't be in favor of buying a used one because you're probably buying.
You're getting somebody else's headache.
Right.
Backhoes, it's coming out of dedicated funds, so.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what, I was wondering what the concern was, because there's no salaries that come out of the street. It is you're just looking at a bottom line. If you don't like the bottom line, yeah, I understand
But the
that.
copier for the police department would come out of the bottom line, so.
Right, for the general fund.
They're gonna be doing
Makes it easy spending that $38,000 taking the water tower down. That came out of a dedicated.
Yeah.
We also have block cameras in there. What about 5,000?
The initial cost of the clock cameras it's 18,000.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so we pulled that out. Forget I said that.
You still a no?
Okay, so.
So I would amend my motion to approve it minus the copier for the police department with the 3% step raise.
What about the tourism department? Oh, no.
What's our time frame, Happy, if it doesn't go tonight?
Well, so technically we have next Thursday, we have an extra Thursday in August,
I think
and you
we're
have
close
another
enough. We can
Thursday.
get it tonight.
And then you have the one you really need to adopt it at, which is September 14th.
So is there any possibility that not going with Visit Widget this year, using that $14,000 to hire a firm to do the social marketing in place of a full-time assistant would get us any closer to what you want to do, Joe?
I think you would do, are you talking about potentially increasing that salary range for the tourism/marketing director? Because I think we have broached that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you're advertising the range of 53, did you say?
52 to 60.
52 to 60?
52 to 60,000. As a starting pay, you'll make more over the years.
Well, sure.
Because based on what my department heads make, how important is tourism to the city? What are you wanting that salary is going to reflect what you place as importance on that and responsibility, yeah.
And liability.
I'm trying to use your CBIZ report. I'm trying to get the most value out of that, right? So I'll get former Alderman Armbruster in here upset with me if I'm not trying to think about what, and I think she's got a point. Absolutely. So I think we need to fully fund the tourism because I think it is a priority. So if you want to look at what I think about the tourism, I think it's one of the main industries that supports this town.
Fully fund as in raise the pay for the director and do a full-time assistant?
No, I think that, I don't think that that person needs a full-time assistant. So I think
If
if you.
we're advertising in the higher
Yeah.
price, the higher salary
Correct.
range, correct?
So I'd like to put the 36,000 back in there, but it to be split between the full-time person and the director and a part-time assistant. And just so we have the budget in there, so if we have to make an amendment to figure it out,
So are we shorthanded now on Welcome Center staff?
Yeah, we've got 3 days that we're not covering.
So the next position that we hire there, we could
hybrid it.
potentially hybrid this position
Yeah, yeah.
for some additional help.
But you're saying 18,000 for that person.
Well, sure, yes, but also raise the tourism director's starting pay as
No,
well.
but I'm saying 18,000 would go to your assistant, and then you're looking at 18,000, so you're looking at 78,000 potentially?
No, that's why I think we need to discuss what we think for a
You want to
start.
cap it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Where did we advertise the position when we hired previous tourism director?
We did Indeed, the local paper, which you'll see that ad coming out.
Well, I was
next
more or
week.
less, where did we, like, what salary range did we advertise for that?
We didn't.
Where,
We discussed.
where did we
discussed
hire,
it.
in our internal range, where did she wind up being? Was that on the top end?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that was the most we were probably going to pay for that
Yeah,
position?
we would have probably gone up to 60,000.
Okay,
But, that would have been the unicorn that you found.
sure.
Previous directors, didn't we have one that was making more than that?
I think Sanders did,
Yeah.
but we were getting extra money from the county as well. We got money from the county, and that was what helped supplement it.
Based on the two inputs I've got, I'm a no on the visit budget for now.
Well, that could be reallocated towards
Right.
Joe's initiative as well.
Yep.
Sorry, Alderman Steiger's initiative.
You don't get fined around here,
Sorry.
I don't think. And I think we
I
wait.
don't know how different it would be if we advertised it at 60 to 68. I don't know if that moves the needle or not.
I think it would.
Well, I mean, it helps,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're placing more importance on the tourism director than any of our other department heads, except for the police chief.
Well, again, we downsized such that you're talking about Pam.
Pam and Dave and Dave's not full-time, yeah. Maybe those two.
That's a tough way to phrase it. So I want to tread lightly when I talk about this, not to diminish anybody's importance, but I think when we talk about tourism, though, we're talking about funding street paving. We're talking about funding stormwater stuff. I'm just throwing it out there.
There again, I don't know that I've seen enough facts to support that if we fund this, that it will come.
To be fair, though, we've been in limbo with this position for some time, right? So,
Happy.
I don't know.
We talked about at the last meeting about this, some type of commission, a joint venture with the county and the chamber, and to me, that's the lifeline of tourism here, is having all of those parties involved. But putting these numbers in here, that's not taking any possible development there into consideration. But
So were the flock cameras scratched from this?
Yeah.
Are there no flock cameras in this?
Yeah, because the purchase price is more than what we anticipated the first time, was like $5,000. That's maintenance, that's the yearly cost to maintain it. So,
Was
yeah,
there money allocated in this year's budget for flock cameras that we've not spent?
I think so, but again, I think the cost for the flock cameras were more than what we had budgeted.
I know, but my question is there money for flock cameras that's not going to be spent?
This budget, we were budgeted flock cameras that we are not getting. I thought that the flock cameras were in for next year's budget as well. The line item.
It's not listed as a capital
It's not
outlay.
listed as capital, but I thought if we carried that line item over.
So that would be under, that'd be under capital
There were
improvements,
5,000
tourism equipment.
equipment, and I think we had,
And there was a monthly.
That was for two.
Okay. So two.
would it be make or break anything if we stayed that? What was it, 5,000 apiece at that time for last year?
It ended up being 2,500 apiece. This year it's 3,000 apiece, but the problem now is they had to get a crash tested pole, which raised the initial installation up to like $18,000. So, it would not break my heart if that needed to go elsewhere. If we had a couple of police budget, that would be the first thing I'd done. And I know county is in the process of adding additional cameras that'll also come with the cities.
So if we took that $5,000, put it with the $14,000 for the visit widget, it would offset the part-time employee.
There's more than $5,000 figures. We figured the pole cost in there as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot higher number than the $5,000 figure before.
But there was a monthly charge.
Yeah, was there a monthly fee also, or an annual? There was an annual fee.
It was that yearly fee of
Yeah.
$6,000 for the
Yeah.
initial fee that went way up.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So if we applied the money that we put towards that initiative that we're not going to spend now towards with the visit widget money,
Well, I think the visit, I'm not set on the actual program itself, Visit Widget, but that's money that director is using for marketing for the city. So just because we don't do Visit Widget, I think that budget needs to stay there so that we might choose a different route. We might not do Visit Widget this year, but I think it still needs to stay in the budget for that. We're going to raise the salary of this person, hire somebody that's, more competent than we think that we've had before, and then they're not going to have any tools or resources to do anything. So I don't want to hamstring the new person without a budget to be able to do anything. So that's why I'm scared to not fully fund this. I don't want to just give it carte blanche, but at the same time, I don't want to spend extra money on a tourism director and then they come in and not have any budget to do anything.
so we figured in the step plus the 3%, which will apply to the tourism director to get somebody at the higher end of that. We've cut the police department's copier and their block cameras, which should get us to close to that $18,000 for the part-time hybrid position
Correct.
in the welcome. And that keeps your visit widget.
Yep.
But you're talking about 2 different years on the cameras. You're talking about this year on the
Well, but
cameras.
that's still
This is next
carryover.
year.
I mean, that's still,
Well, but it's not in here.
no, but
Well, it's in
It's still,
the,
we didn't
it
put
would be,
I
it would
forgot
be
to list it.
carryover
Okay.
from this year's budget. Does that check all the boxes?
it's getting pretty darn close. I think you're making a good investment.
All right. So I
we're
will amend
talking
my
about
motion.
18,000 budgeted for the assistant,
A hybrid position.
hybrid.
Welcome center attendant / social media manager. I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah.
So the 18,000 plus benefits. For that, part-timers don't earn the benefits that a full-timer does, so it won't be as much.
Now, can I ask a silly question potentially? Now, we hire this person and they do not feel like they need that assistant, but they would like to hire an agency to handle social media or some marketing arm. That money could be reallocated, correct?
It can be used for that, yeah.
We can just make an amendment and change
It's a
the budget.
number in the budget, so it's there.
You'll be
for-
hiring a firm instead of.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar but different, I guess.
Yeah.
Because yes, we'll hire the tourism director, then we would hire, that person would hire the assistant or come up with a better solution.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Happy, when we have a specific item on here, and I don't mean to beat you up on the backhoe, Steve, but say somewhere along the
I'll
line.
beat them up on it.
But it's a dedicated fund, it doesn't help us in the general.
Well, you're right, but
Yeah, this is in general to
But, I mean,
any,
we still have to
any fund in here.
it'll go to
manage,
some of it.
right, I get that.
If we decide somewhere along the line, they decide not to buy an item, and they decide to do something else like maybe a second dump truck, what approval does that take and stuff to be able to switch from a backhoe to another dump truck or something? Just as a example.
Well, we have to approve any major expenditure as a purchase, so.
But if they have a line item entry for an item,
Right, but when we bought cars, we would get the budget approved, but then when we went to purchase the car, we had to come and get approval to actually purchase the cars once the vehicles were ready. So any major expenditure, we'll have to approve as a board anyways.
And it'd be a different verbiage so you'd have to have an amendment on your budget, wouldn't you?
So what's gonna happen is Steve or David or whoever's gonna come before you and say, hey, we wanted to do this, but we don't think we can get it, we wanna do this instead. And you're gonna go, or yeah, that sounds good. So then we bring it to you as a purchase. And then also, then we don't do it every time. We do twice a year, we do budget amendments so that what you had approved before then gets approved, gets adopted by the time we do it in the middle of the year and then at the end of the year.
Otherwise, we get dinged by the auditor, right? If we
Right.
don't, yeah.
Right.
So we have to change the budget and approve the
When
purchase.
so you say it, we move through with it, and then, we make that purchase and then we bring back the budget amendment later.
because if some of these things, just like we did with the vac truck and stuff, it never happened in the year we had it budgeted, it fell through and stuff. So I was just wondering if all of a sudden dump trucks become available, we're down two, right? That we can shift that funds from one item to the next and stuff and have more
The
use.
way we always operated, there was the bottom line. I mean, once, if you came in at the end of the year, even if you were over on one line item, but you were under on your bottom line, and we do the budget amendments to justify that,
right?
then the auditors are happy with that. So I will amend my motion
Again,
to include taking out the $8,000 for the police department copier, looking at the carryover for the flock cameras, using both of those line items to fund $18,000 for the part-time assistant for a tourism director, and move forward with the step increase plus 3%.
I'll second that motion. Or that amendment. I'm not sure if it's in.
It's a motion. We'll call it a motion.
So you removed all your other motions,
Yes,
correct?
all previous motions have been withdrawn
Okay, just wanna double check.
respectfully.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Does this need to go to roll call or anything?
We need just a consensus of the group, and then you can vote like a regular voice vote. What I have a question on is we said 18,000 for the assistant, are we then also adding 18,000 on for the tourism director? Or are we saying with the number that I had budgeted?
I think we're including the step and the 3% in that position as
Okay.
well.
I think on the top end of the salary range, I don't
over and
mind
above the
that.
60.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, because you're going to be estimating now that they'll be closer to what you might advertise would be
Mid-50s.
probably
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
55 to 60.
But the budget reflects 55, correct? When we're looking at
Yes.
this number, okay.
55 plus benefits.
Okay.
But that can be, and that's adjustable in that we don't have the full-time staff down at the Welcome Center, so we don't always spend that whole budget line.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Bennett. We have a second from Alderman Steiger. All in favor?
Aye.
That's it. Any opposed?
Don't we have to do,
Now, what do you want to do about dedicated funds? We've got park, street, tourism.
I would make a motion to approve those as presented.
So this restroom number, how much of that was a grant?
All of it.
All of it?
So that's all ARPA funds. That's two new bathrooms up at the Pier Marquette Park. One by the big pavilion, the other down near the soccer field. So that was, Parks Department made that recommendation, and that's how they want to spend the money. This is part of what we were dedicating when we got the ARPA funding, because they wanted outdoor recreation. We thought those were the two items that really needed to be spruced up there.
But
So I
none
just-
of that 160 is carryover.
It's actually all carryover for this year.
Right, okay.
But from the ARPA.
But from ARPA, right.
Is that those modular things we were talking about?
Yes.
Discussion. Do we want to go back to streets and have Steve look at the option of a backhoe? A used backhoe, I should say. And then next year look at buying a new backhoe, and we can decide which one of the current one or the used one we buy, if we want to sell that one. So that we have two backhoes in inventory.
I don't know that I love this approach, but as it sits, it's balanced, and we'll have to approve any of those purchases anyway. So if we give him the option to buy what he needs to have after he expends every other option, you know, if we limit ourselves there, I mean, at some point in time, if we had to go that, then it would be another budget amendment to go over that line item to purchase it.
I'm not in favor of a used backhoe, I don't think, but,
No, I think you're purchasing someone else's problem.
Right.
But I think if you repair
That's where
what you have, I mean, that's gonna be our option.
right, so
I mean, if
where's,
you don't want to purchase one, I mean, you're probably looking at 35,000 in repairs. With the front axle or the transfer case, electrical system.
If we put that 35,000 in, I'm not trying to hold your feet to the fire,
Yep.
but if we put that 35,000 into it, is there a possibility we get more years out of that, or would we still be looking at buying a new one next year?
Well, we can still get, another year or two out of it. It's still going to be used in the fire, still going to be used in the salt. So it's going to continue to deteriorate. Just know that in a year or two, we won't have an option. So,
But you'll have a very good case to come back to us and at least beat me up on that.
yeah.
So,
And I mean, if we can put, say, 35,000 off to the side for repairs,
But that's just shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
It could be 50,000.
yeah. Yeah, we can get the guys
It could be
down there.
135,000.
I don't want to go to estimate first.
Right,
Yeah.
You're
right.
saying 35,000 is a close estimate to repair the one we have?
That would be my guesstimate.
That's another whole number. But without those repairs, I mean, you can't push that burn pile back into wheel drive.
We can back up and take a run at it.
Yeah, I
That's-
think we know what that does.
That's great for the loader.
Has a seatbelt.
would they get burned up?
And no air conditioning in an enclosed cab is not a good option.
Against the fire.
Right. Well, I mean, just in normal, it's,
And then theoretically, if that works, then we'd have another $100,000 to put back into that street department fund and bring that number back up a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, 'cause where was he thinking we were at streets? 349, 350.
So you're,
Well, yeah. all
having
right.
your 477 number is not a real number. You take 200,000 off of that because that's what was budgeted this year. But yeah, we're gonna have to write a check next year if we get it done in time for 477,000.
So your unaudited starting amount has that 200 and some thousand in it.
Right.
So then you're eventually taking that out because you have to spend it. So it is a real number because we'll spend it after the end of the year. We'll spend it at the beginning of the new budget year.
I just, next year when we approach this overlay thing, let's do everything we can to put definite dates in there, that we're not doing this every year. Because I'll tell you what, there's nothing I hear about anymore than the bad streets in town. There is no more topic that is more vocal by people.
That's what makes the 550 on City Hall remodel tough.
Oh, it's just,
But I'm
if
not
you
saying
look
it
at all,
doesn't need to be
it's
done.
the,
It
it's the
needs to be
highest,
done.
it's the highest expense that we've got on here, and people are driving down Mogadishu, you know? So you can't tell me there's not one neighborhood that doesn't have a horrible street.
And what 500,000 wouldn't do, but when Eric and I looked up there before, we talked about the police department, I'm telling you, we were in danger. The place was gonna burn down, or whatever was gonna happen, so.
We needed a facility and we couldn't buy one for $800,000.
This is a preservation of what we have, and it was the cheapest alternate before we faced something a lot worse. It
We
just-
couldn't buy a building in town as big as we needed and to build one.
No, we looked at them, and there was nothing,
So
nothing out there
it's a
that
hard
wasn't
sell,
gonna,
but it has to be a useful
just like
space.
buying a backhoe. It was something that had to be done.
But we're not, we're fixing one, so.
Right. I knew the air conditioner was a problem. I didn't realize the four-wheel drive wasn't working.
So I have a motion on the table.
Second.
No, we had discussion. It hadn't been seconded yet.
So,
Did you second it, Bob?
No,
No.
I asked for discussion
so
before
take
he
us
got,
back to the
before,
original motion,
to
just
prove
real
it.
quick, just to clarify.
To approve
Dedicated
the
funds.
other dedicated funds as proposed.
Okay.
Second.
So, but we're amending it with the backhoe, correct, though?
No, we're leaving the funds in there, right?
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
With the understanding that we will repair rather than buy, if that's a feasible option.
We have to repair.
Yes.
No doubt. We have to repair. It won't do what we do as a second backhoe and stuff, so that's a given.
So you can look at the cost of repair, get a good estimate, and then also look around, see if there's other backhoes. Maybe another used backhoe would be worth it. But
Not my vote.
again, that's up to you guys to say yes or
Are
no.
we sure we're not kicking that can down the road and it's just gonna come back to bite us?
I think if Steve is saying he thinks we can get another year out of it, I don't think we're kicking the can too far down the road. Because we would still have then a decent backhoe for a backup for when we do buy one next year, because we don't have that now.
Right.
Gives us some options, and we're gonna repair what we got, and then we'll look at, you know,
Is there
What our
funding in
next
this
options
year's
are.
budget to repair that?
I don't think so.
Not probably
Well, I mean,
that
there
much.
is, because we're not spending it on the streets, but it would lower our whatever.
You're gonna dip into that
Okay.
I don't
349,000.
even know if we get it done before the end of the budget year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have a motion.
And a second.
Second, right.
Alderman Donovan is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right.
Makes my used dump truck.
Thank you for getting that far into it.
Thank you, Happy.
And then one thing, because I think we've run through our presentation department items and we've gotten through the end here. Wanted to discuss some, so Happy and I had a conversation after Tanalin's resignation. Happy shouldered that load before. He's currently shouldering it again in the interim. So he's wearing another hat. And we kind of just had a discussion if that should include some additional compensation for the time that he is undertaking that additional role.
Somewhere in this process, we've promoted an assistant an assistant city manager. So are there any of those tasks that he can delegate to Dave to help offset that?
I mean, we're all covering a lot of, doing a lot at this point. I mean, yeah, we can, farm some of it out to him, or try to.
We passed that along, though, with no increase in salary, just some increased vacation days or something, didn't we?
On Dave.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to do something.
I mean, and what we're talking about is, you know, for the time that he's putting in while we're in the interim, you know, it's really just reallocating the budget that the salary we'd already budgeted for initially. It's just kind of reallocating some of those dollars for him.
From the tourism director that we're not paying now.
Correct.
And would only last while we're
Is there a,
without
is there a sunset on this, or?
Until we
Somebody's
have a
hiring starts.
resolution to the problem.
Yeah, it doesn't need to go any longer than that.
Well, there's going to be some crossover, some training, and some. So I think it probably should potentially carry over for at least some amount of time. So, because
So is that something we
first,
do
an
in
employee
open
doesn't just show
discussion,
up
or-
and know what to do. You know?
I mean, it could have been, we can have it in open discussion. My understanding is we can't have it in open
I
discussion.
think you should have an open discussion because it's not a performance issue and it's not hiring, firing, or promotion.
I think to some extent it's a salaried position and you assume the roles that need to be assumed, and everybody that's in a salaried position here has certainly done more than just their job to make sure that the wheel is turning.
Yeah. I mean, you look, our police chief and fire chief and the other people in City Hall too. I mean, so they're carrying the load too. So it's a touchy subject because there's a lot of other people carrying the weight when we're down a fireman or down a policeman or down a tourism director. So it's
Or a water department bill
Yeah.
collector, or,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's done it. And I don't mean to imply that I don't appreciate the additional work, because I do, but that's part of being in a salaried position.
did
But
you have
other than salary, the hourly people would be paid in addition. They're putting in additional hours.
And that's why it typically falls on the salaried employee. That's
Right.
why, we work the midnights and the overtime shifts to keep from paying overtime. And
So I know Happy can't have any input in this and stuff, but how do we go about that?
Well,
did you have a recommendation?
I mean, we can take kind of a prorated version of Tanner's salary and reallocate that over time until we do have a new director in that role. That's one way to look at it.
And you're talking about just the salary, not,
We could set a dollar amount. I mean, it's not a one-time payment. It would be spread out basically spread out,
by the month, or,
yeah, through pay periods until we do have
so is that a percentage of her salary monthly?
well, and we would probably have to get into numbers. I mean, if we're quantifying it, I mean, I think it would, it's probably somewhere in maybe like the $10,000 range, spread out over probably a few months.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I said is, what I would look at is a $10,000 increase over a year.
Oh, I thought, well.
Hold on. What I meant was, that would be my yearly salary, say, $10,000 extra. But I'd only be paid for the time that I'm actually filling in for the tourism. So it's not $10,000. It's just whatever that rate
Now would
is.
be.
how'd you come up with that amount?
Seemed like a solid number to throw out. Because we also have, and we're going to change it up this year.
$800.
This year, the raises are going to go into effect in October when we approve it. We have the 3%, and we have not discussed whether that 3% is just all COLA raise, or if you're going to request that half of it be merit. But that will also go into effect October 1 for the COLA. If it's merit, then it goes with the performance review in February. So there will be an increase for everybody coming this October.
This spreadsheet here reflects COLA.
This spreadsheet reflects everything.
It's
Well, COLA, right? So not performance. It would include that
Yes.
step plus 3% COLA. not split.
Just, yeah, it's everything.
Right, but you
Everything
can
over
split it
the-
up.
Everything over the budget year, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you split this 3%,
It's not a COLA.
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna say it's not a COLA?
Well, if you split it up some performance and some COLA, then you might not give out all of it. So, I mean, I'm assuming
Right.
this reflects straight COLA right now.
It's the full 3%, yes. Yeah.
And my vote would be that it be a COLA, that it not be a merit-based raise.
I agree with that.
Merit or performance, whatever, yeah.
Right.
I would contest that,
My brain
especially
hurts,
as
I don't
small
wanna
as
do
we are, like, we know when somebody is underperforming and we're handling that
It kind of goes
at the
against.
street level.
What about if somebody is overperforming?
I don't think we can quantify that. I mean, then they put in for a promotion when a spot comes available.
So, you guys are subject matter experts when it comes to police force, but I mean, are you saying we're not in favor of an incentive program to, and granted, I don't know what it is to go above and beyond as an officer.
And I think that's what's hard to qualify because, you know, our merit, our evaluation process follows policy and procedure. Well, you can't follow policy and procedure better than the policy and procedure is written. I can't do better at following rules than following rules. So-
I want to have this conversation. Can we finish the conversation about
Yes.
happy first, and then
Yes.
when we get to the, because this is going to be at another meeting, the 3%, I assume, because we're not discussing that tonight, are we?
I mean, when you adopt the budget I brought to you, it has the.
We're approving the 3%. He's saying the method by
Whether
which
it's
that's paid
correct,
out
yes, we're
doesn't
not-
need to be
We're not deciding
decided.
that tonight, correct? Okay.
No, but a previous board pretty much decided that it was 50% merit and 50%.
Well, that was a previous board, and now we're the
Right.
board that's sitting here now.
I'm on the fence. I mean, I see both, you know. so-
Again, I mean, we're talking about a competitive landscape that we're fighting to keep people, fighting to get people. A 3% raise is not going to break us. It's not going to bankrupt us. We appreciate our employees. I would like to show our employees that we appreciate them. Again, I think that they are subject to disciplinary action when they do poorly and up to and including termination if they're not performing as they should. So then we should pay them the cost of living. The cost of living is just that. It's a cost of living. So that's my opinion.
Managers agree with that? I mean, it's a tool for you. I mean,
I agree. I think the cost of living is 3% regardless. And then if you're looking at rewarding somebody for going above and beyond or doing more, then you need to have something above that 3%. Because regardless, everybody's cost of living went up 3%, is my opinion.
Well, you're not going to have that tool this year, though.
I agree. I'm not saying we do,
gonna
but I'm just saying regardless, everybody's cost of living went up 3%. So I think everybody should be eligible for the 3% and not be merit-based.
So you're okay with not having a tool this year for your
I agree, because I also think that if you don't have that tool, you find managers maybe not evaluating fairly just to make sure everybody gets their full cost of living. I think that's potential because you're gonna make sure everybody gets at least their 3% cost of living regardless. So I don't think you get a fair evaluation by cutting the cost of living in half. To where if you're gonna do a cost of living and then at some point get to where you reward people for going above, you may get a little more fair evaluation from your managers.
But back to the happy discussion. So is that the recommendation on the table for 10%?
So I was trying to quantify the time that he's going to spend doing this job in the interim. 10,000 was a number that we discussed. The structure, I goofed that up, but I mean, however we want to structure it, of course, is up to us. I mean, we can also consider other options. It was just an initial recommendation.
But you're saying 10% or 10,000 annualized every month for the length of the time until we get a tourism director in place.
At this point, I mean, he could be
So
in that
be-
role for another month, he could be in it another 4 months,
Yeah.
but the recommendation would still be the 10.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
10,000 annualized every month.
annualized every month.
And it'd be about $800 a month, I guess, probably, gross.
Roughly. I mean, if you guys have other thoughts, we're open to that as well. It's just an initial thought.
Doesn't sound like-
warranted.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but
Well, I mean, if he's expending 20% more effort, he's already, we all know as a CA, he's working 110%. So if he's working 130%, I mean, yeah, we probably need to compensate.
Are we leaving anybody out? I mean, are we going to have any? Are there other people picking up slack that'll be jaded by this decision?
Can't answer that.
Come on, Mayor, get your crystal ball out.
I think everybody picks a staff down at the Welcome Center, City Hall staff. I mean,
Yeah.
more responsibility.
The police department is not doing any extra tourism.
Well, they were gonna start selling ads on the cars, so we're gonna talk to you about that. A billboard scrolling in the back window.
The Cardinals did
Visit
it.
St. Genevieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially when they drive home, that'd be good.
Yeah, exactly.
college athletes can do it now and stuff, so why not?
I'll move to increase the 10,000 annualized per month until we hire a new tourism director.
I'll second that.
Yeah. And just to clarify, so you're, effectively, we're gonna pay him the 10,000 regardless of when we hire.
No, you'll be paying 10,000 divided by 12 every month.
Until we hire.
Until we hire.
Until we hire. So that's the motion that's on the
Yeah.
table.
It'll be roughly $800 gross every month in
Okay.
addition.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
So that's the motion. Alderman Rainey has a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Alderman Benning's opposed. Okay. I believe we've run through our agenda. Does anybody have any other items they want to discuss right now?
Yeah.
Anything
have
else
anything.
as it pertains to this budget work session?
I appreciate you guys coming in tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. With that,
A lot
we'll
of
go ahead
information
and adjourn.
to absorb.
Thanks, everybody, for working through that.
Thanks, man.
Thank you all for the time you put in